didn't want to stand. So Paige, how was your meditation?
It was good. It was loud.
It was loud? What does that mean?
Just, I don't know. Anxiety is what's been coming up for me lately, and that's what I felt.
Yeah.
So it was loud, and like my head felt really heavy.
Mm-hmm.
So I just kind of pulled down.
Mm-hmm. And did your head feel heavy because of the anxiety? Or did your head feel heavy because of something different?
I don't know.
Did your head, have you ever had a heavy head before?
I mean, not like regularly.
Okay. Was this a new experience for you?
Much more noticeable.
Yeah.
Just in my neck and things like that.
Uh-huh. And did it feel like stress and pain connected to the anxiety, or did it feel like something energetic?
Connected to the anxiety.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so a lot of people really struggle with anxiety. And in our culture we try to do a lot of things with anxiety. We try to medicate it, we try to get rid of it. People do drugs and drink and all kinds of things to try to get rid of anxiety. But anxiety, it's something that within us that's trying to get our attention. And so the way I look at anxiety and the way I work with anxiety is I don't see it as anything bad at all. I almost see it like a little kid who's knocking on the door of our heart, saying, "Hey, will you give me some attention? Will you love me? Will you honor me? Will you listen to me?" And normally what we do is when we feel pain within us, we try to push it down, ignore it, deny it, and look anywhere else but at it. And if we want to be free, we have to be willing to embrace our anxiety fully, totally. And one of the first things we can do is just simply listen to it and just ask, you just gently ask it, what do you want to tell me? What do you need? And we just listen and see if there's just a silent voice or maybe a loud raging voice that comes forward and says, I want to be seen, I want to be heard, I want to be loved, I want to be honored. But most of us, because we have a mind that's wired to seek pleasure and avoid pain, we just push it away, or we ignore it, we tell it to shut up. We do whatever we can. Some people are workaholics or exercise like crazy. And they're always trying to almost outrun their anxiety. But I've experienced tremendous anxiety throughout my life and had panic attacks and all kinds of things. And the way I've worked with it is just embracing it fully. And I even allowed myself, if I'm having a panic attack or something, just to lay on the floor and just to breathe deeply and fully into it. And feel that energy and actually allow it to overwhelm me and listen to it and see if it needs something. If it says I want to be loved, and I just place a hand on my heart and a hand on my belly and just breathe into it and allow that emotional storm, that anxiety attack to run through my body. And almost just hold it like I would hold a baby. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, it takes 5 minutes. I've laid on the floor for hours having these anxiety attacks and panic attacks. But the more I was able to fully meet it, to fully love it, to fully honor it, the quicker it would pass, the quicker it would heal. Mm-hmm. And there's always a funny thing that happened is that when I was willing to do it, a sense of strength developed within me. and like a sense of like fearlessness. And it's a fearlessness that comes from embracing something totally without running away. And it's a funny thing, it's kind of an ironic thing that, because what our mind wants to do or what our ego wants to do is just run away from it. And just run like as quick as we can, or ignore it as quick as we can, watch TV, surf the web, whatever, to ignore it. But what happens is if we ignore it, it tends to get louder. It tends to get louder. And oftentimes when people, sit down to meditate, because there's so many places within ourselves that we've ignored, that we've denied, that we've forgotten about, whatever. When we sit down to meditate, all these things come forward. And it's a big reason why people don't want to meditate, because they're like, I don't want to sit down and feel uncomfortable and, feel shitty. But our invitation is to sit down and hold the space for them. Is to hold the space for them. And a funny thing happens, if we just meet them with our ego, I'm going to do this work because I want to heal myself. It doesn't really heal. It's almost like when you lecture a kid, they don't really listen. But when you step into the spaciousness that you are, the hugeness that you are, when I look at your presence, you have this, this mix of this strength and innocence, both together. And so if you can step into that strength and that innocence and just be that strength and innocence and allow your anxiety to come forward and be met by your strength and innocence, then it can heal. Normally in life, we have anxiety because maybe someone didn't meet us, someone didn't love us, someone didn't honor us. And then we spend our life trying to get in situations where someone else will honor us and love us, someone else will take care of us. Maybe we wait for our parents to change and show up and love us, which never works. Or we wait for our partner to show up and love us. But what this really is, it's an invitation for that strength and innocence that you are to come forward in an embodied way and love this aspect of yourself that felt like it didn't experience love. This aspect of yourself that felt like it wasn't heard or wasn't honored, or whatever the situation is. And so we look into ourselves and we just ask it, what do you need? And we listen to it, and then we give it what it wants. And again, we don't give it what it wants through our mind, but we do it from our innocence, from our beauty, from our divinity. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Does that resonate with you at all?
Definitely.
Definitely? Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Did you have any more questions about that? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so one of the things that's nice about a meditation practice is the first instruction is to get in touch with your divinity, with the quietness that you are, the innocence that you are, the strength that you are. And so to get in touch with that, we have to be willing to unhook from our mind, from our mentality, and to step into our divinity. And our divinity is just that quiet presence that's looking out of your eyes right now, that quiet presence that just hears my voice. And it's that quiet presence that's been here our whole life. And so our invitation is to step into that, to identify fully with it, to give ourselves over to it, and then whatever comes forward, whether it's thoughts or emotions, or a lot of times we'll have anxiety, or if we have just tightness and tension within us, our invitation is to meet the tightness and tension, anxiety, whatever it is, from this quiet, innocent beauty that we are. And then just allow whatever's there to heal. And it's not just about healing. It's almost like the more you give yourself to this innocence that you are, the more you give yourself to this divinity that you are, it kind of grows, it wakes up, it becomes more alive, it becomes more embodied. And as we give ourselves over to that, It's almost like our mind is, the things we struggle with become less in comparison. So, when I speak about waking up, what I'm speaking about is waking up out of our mind, waking up out of our ego as our sense of identity. And our ego is, all of our past, all of our memories, all of our conditioning, everything everyone's told us that we are, everything that we've believed ourselves to be, which is pretty much everything we think. It's all the masks that we wear, like sometimes if we have a tough life, we wear this mask of being tough, or some people wear the mask of being sweet and seductive. Some people wear the mask of, being the intelligent person or whatever. But it's being willing to step out of that mask and step into this hugeness, just like this quiet presence, and to live from that place. And it's quite a big shift. It's quite a big shift to go from, all of these thoughts, all these identities. Because these identities, in a sense, have protected us our whole lives. Like sometimes we have like the tough guy, or tough girl identity. And if we were picked on, that identity kind of, put a front between us and other people. And so, like in middle school, it may be helpful to have a tough identity, like in middle school, I remember I had a lot of my friends, they would pick on me. And so I started fighting in middle school, and I got in lots of fights. And I was this little scrapper, And then people stopped messing with me. And so it was a helpful thing to have that egoic mask when I was in middle school. But at some point I realized it wasn't the truth of me. The truth of me was much more innocent. And so when I would live in that kind of that tough guy scrapper mask, it felt terrible. It felt like I wasn't being true to who I am. And so our invitation with awakening is to step out of that mask, to let our guards down, and just see if we're okay without them. But most of us, we spend our whole lives behind these masks because we're afraid of being vulnerable, being open with life, because we think it's going to be like middle school or high school or whatever it is. And I work with so many people who are hiding behind these masks and are really afraid to allow these walls down, because it's almost like we're afraid of being overwhelmed by life. But what we find is that it's a terrible way to live. If you're this huge presence of innocence, this huge presence of beauty and divinity, and you're living behind a mask, you're going to feel a pressure there. There's going to be like a sense inside that you're not being fully authentic. You're not living and being who you are. But to allow that mask to drop, it takes a courage. It's almost like a courage to stand there naked and say, like, okay, life, this is me. This is who I am. And when life throws tomatoes, you stand there naked and let life throw tomatoes. And you notice, oh look, someone just threw tomatoes, and I actually was not destroyed. Of course, it hurts to your ego, it hurts to your humanity. But you notice, like, I actually wasn't hurt. In a huge way, in an absolute way, everything in our life we survive. Even our own death, as crazy as that sounds. even our own death, we survive that. But the thing with our mask is when we're identified with our mask, someone says something to us, I don't like you, you look stupid, you're an idiot, you're incompetent, whatever. You're not a part of the group. If we're living in our mask, then we get hurt because we're believing in the mask. But this quietness that's looking out of your eyes, it can't be hurt. It can't be harmed. Even if I was going to come over there and torture you, the quietness within us, that quiet, spacious presence, it couldn't be harmed. If I said the meanest things, it couldn't be harmed. But what we find as humans is that if you believe in what I say and take it to be true, if I say you're the worst person ever, and you believe it, then you suffer. And so our invitation is just to step back into this quiet, simple scene, this basic scene, this spacious, open innocence that we are. Rest is that, and not believe what the world has to say about us. Not believe what our conditioning has to say about us. Not believe what our parents have had to say about us. And just identify as this hugeness, this spaciousness, this quiet. When we live from this place, we become like the sky, like huge and vast and free. And if anxiety comes, there's room for anxiety to come and go. We meet it with love. If anger or sadness comes, there's room for it. We meet it with love. Because it's not that our humanity will disappear when we identify with the hugeness, the innocence, divinity that we are. It's not that our humanity disappears and we don't feel it anymore. But our perspective becomes so vast that the anxiety is like, it's not a big deal. It's like when we're a parent and we have a little kid and it falls on the ground and cries. We as a parent know it's not a big deal. We pick up the little girl and we say, hey sweetie, it's okay. It's okay. If we identify totally with her, with our ego, oh my God, then we suffer. But it takes a courage, it takes a courage to let go. Like I was speaking with someone today, and we were talking about thoughts. A lot of the non-dual teachings. A lot of the non-dual teachings have to do with our relationship with our mind. And what non-dual means is it almost means like not separate from, like there's no separation between us and God, like no separation at all. And one of the stages that we work with in the beginning is realizing that we are not what we think. Like the thoughts that come in our head, like if we just examine thoughts, it's like we're just sitting here and thoughts arise. We don't know what they are, we don't know where they come from. If they're negative thoughts, if they're painful thoughts, if we believe them, we suffer. If we have the thought, I know this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, this is a waste of my time. If we believe that thought, then we suffer. If we just sit here in the spacious openness of this room, there's no real suffering, there's just this direct experience of this moment. If we believe the thought, I'm unworthy, I'm no good, I'm never going to get a job, whatever, we suffer. So the invitation is to not believe what we think, and instead just to directly experience life. And so in the beginning, we normally do this dance of kind of stepping out of our mind and seeing it as something separate from us. And there's a sense of, like when we're in our mind, there tends to be this feeling of tightness, tension, and anxiety. When we step out of our mind, we experience a sense of freedom. And we're welcome to stay there in that sense of freedom. But often what most people do is they create this war between who they are and what they think. And then they walk around or they sit in meditation. They try, I'm not going to think, I'm not going to think, I'm trying not to think. I need to shut my mind up. My mind is bad, my mind's a devil, it drives me fucking crazy, I need to shut it up. We tend to create attention and anxiety. But then we're creating a war with something we can't control, because thoughts just arise. It's a crazy thing, they just arise out of nowhere. And so when we step out of that mind and if we can just see our thoughts with a sense of openness, there's a sense of freedom there. But at some point, if we begin to look deeper, we can see that there's nothing wrong with thoughts. They're innocent. They're just things that arise within us. And they arise out of this incredible mystery. They arise out of this spaciousness. And if we investigate thoughts if we investigate thoughts in a deep way, we find is that in their essence, in their energetic essence, that they too are empty, they're spacious, almost like they're just like little sparks of energy just coming through our body. I mean, isn't that a crazy thing? About our mind, our thoughts, like most of us go our whole life without ever investigating this. Most of us just have thoughts, take them to be real, and then create this whole virtual reality around our thoughts. But we never stop and look what are my thoughts? Where do they come from? And at some point, spirituality often teaches us, I need to step out of my thoughts. I need to not be my thoughts. I need to fight with my thoughts. I need to get rid of my thoughts. I need to control my thoughts. And like I said in the beginning, that's helpful for a little bit, but at some point we also realize that our thoughts, they're this mysterious dance, and they just arise out of the spaciousness that we are, the emptiness that we are, and they are also part of God. And when we see that, we can have a different kind of relationship with them, an inclusive relationship, so that our thoughts aren't the devil. Our thoughts aren't this thing that we go to war with. They're not something that we fight with. And when we see them that way, it's almost like we can meet them with love. We can see them as love. And they can just be another movement that's happening within us, a mysterious movement, an incredible movement, a divine movement. And then there's no war with what we think. When we get to that kind of relationship, a relationship where we embrace our thoughts fully, totally, we tend not to have negative, judgmental thoughts anymore. They just tend to be, I don't want to say sweet thoughts, but it's almost like when we're willing to fully embrace every aspect of ourselves, all of our pain, all of our insanity, all of our hell, and meet every aspect of ourselves with full and total love, then our mind just tends to be the mind of God. Sweet, gentle, open, spacious. If we're resisting ourselves, fighting with ourselves, fighting with others, fighting with life, then our thoughts tend to be negative, aggressive, brutal, violent. And those thoughts aren't bad either. Those thoughts are actually inviting us to a place within us that's in pain. And so that's a time where we can meet ourselves with love, with compassion, with peace. And be like, oh, I'm having crazy thoughts of wanting to rip someone's head off. Something within me must be hurting. Something within me must want and need to be loved. Because the only time we have, crazy, angry, violent thoughts is if some aspect of ourselves felt hurt, felt scared, and was needing to be loved. And so our invitation is to go to that place and to love it fully, meet it fully, embrace it fully and totally. And as we embrace it fully and totally, it heals, and in its place tends to be a sense of strength, a sense of power, a sense of honesty, a sense of innocence. But the way most of humanity works, if there's something bad within us, we suppress it, we ignore it, we deny it, we forget about it. We drink, we smoke, anything to ignore something uncomfortable. And so this is quite a different path. It's a path of embracing everything that's painful, unpleasant, difficult, uncomfortable within us, loving it fully and totally, allowing it to heal, and see what remains in the end. And in the end, we'll find this spaciousness, this beauty, this divinity, and this almost like an ineffable relationship with life. Like a very deep and quiet relationship with life. So, anyways, anything come up while I was speaking? Or you think I'm crazy?
No, I don't. Like the first part of it, where you talk about like separating from your thoughts, makes me question then how you connect to people. Because to me, like I feel like a lot of connection is through thoughts.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, when I say separate yourself from thoughts, or step out of your thoughts, or step out of your mind, it's just like the discursive thoughts within you. Mm-hmm. You know, like I would never want anyone to become a hermit, you know, and run away from life or anything like that. But it's almost like you've met me before, right? And so you can have lots of thoughts about me. Your thoughts may be, I know Craig, you know, he works as a therapist, he works as a non-dual teacher. Sometimes he's a pain in the ass, sometimes he's boring. So you may have those thoughts about me. And as long as you have those thoughts, if you only like believe in those thoughts and only listen to those thoughts, you've kind of put me in this box as Craig is this person. And so stepping out of our thoughts is walking into the room and seeing me, looking in my eyes, being silent, and being like, wow, who's that? Who's that? You know, like I could look at you and, you know, come up with a list of things that you are. So stepping out of our thoughts is stepping into our direct experience. And like I was saying earlier, my direct experience of you is you have this beauty that just pours out of you, this innocence that pours out of you, and this strength. And I'm just noticing like the direct experience of you. And none of those are like real thoughts, those are my actual experience of your essence. And so our invitation is can we meet people on the level of their essence? And in fact, it's like when we fall in love with someone, you know, we don't fall in love with someone because they're a mountain biker. We don't fall in love with them because they're good at sports. We fall in love with their essence. And so our invitation is can we meet life that way? Can we meet from my essence to your essence? You know, can we meet in the essence of the sky, of this room, of this spaciousness? You know, when we have a little dog, we're in love with the essence of our dog. We're not in love with the dog because I love this dog because it's a bulldog and I only love bulldogs. You know, like that's what I mean by. And there are people that are that crazy. You know, there's people who, like I've had friends, like I have this little Shih Tzu dog, and people come over to my house and they don't like my dog. And they don't like it because, oh, I only like big dogs, or a man's dog, or, you know, a dog that's a wolf dog, and they don't like my dog because it's this little sweet lap dog. And so they come over with these judgments, these ideas of my dog. But to me, like when I look at Doodles, I see the whole universe in his eyes. He has such an innocence about him, such a tenderness, such a sweetness. And that's what I love him for. And most people, even if they come into my house with these harsh opinions of how my dog's stupid and how it's a dumb kind of dog to have, when they bend down and pet him and look into his eyes, they fall in love with him because he's such a sweetheart. And that's what I mean by stepping out of our minds, stepping out of our thoughts. And can we be willing to meet life that way? Can we be willing to connect that way? You know, from our essence. And meet the essence of everyone, of everything. And when we meet in that way, it's a deep connection. And it's not like we just stand there and we're just like staring into each other's eyes and, doing some weird, spiritual dance that gets to be uncomfortable and awkward at some point, not like that. But it's like, can we just be that quiet presence and meet, heart to heart with whoever we're with? In a sense, I imagine you're already doing that, You're already doing that because you have that kind of presence about you, just such an innocent presence. And so can we meet from that place, instead of like, if you've ever seen people at the gym, they meet from like, I'm tough, I'm tougher than you place. We can meet in that place, and that can be fun for, 30 to 45 seconds. But after that 30 to 45 seconds of engaging in how much can you bench, or, let's flex together in the mirror and see who's got bigger muscles. Beyond that, there's this wonderful way we can meet. And this is the way we meet when we fall in love. And so can we do this? Can we allow this meeting throughout our whole life? So that's what I mean by stepping out of our minds, stepping out of our thoughts, and not meeting life from, like that mental place, that judgmental place. And what we notice is when we meet life from that innocence, we become innocence, and it feels wonderful. We feel wonderful. It feels liberating versus meeting life from an angry, judgmental, defensive place that's, hiding behind a mask. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've definitely encountered that recently, and it feels much better to approach it.
Yeah, it feels much better to meet life from this than, I'm gonna be tough.
Open yourself up. I don't know. And then you open yourself up to the vulnerability, and that's another battle.
Yeah, and that's absolutely right. So to be open, to meet heart to heart with someone, we have to be willing and courageous enough to be vulnerable. And we can watch if someone hurts us, if someone rejects us, we can just notice that felt painful to my ego, that felt painful, it hurt, and I'm still alive. I'm still okay. I'm still very much here, very much unharmed. And so that's again where we can shift into this hugeness that we are, this innocence that we are. And if you open up to someone and they reject you, what's happening is they are showing you that they're incapable of staying open, and they're showing you that they are in so much pain that they have to reject you out of fear. And so it actually has nothing to do with you and everything to say about them. They're scared, and when people are scared, they reject you. And so our invitation is if we get rejected, we feel the pain, we have a good cry, whatever, if we need to have a cry. We feel the pain, and we meet it with love. We meet it with our love. If I'm always waiting for you to love me and accept me and honor me, then I'm at the mercy of you and your capability of loving. But if I'm open and willing to meet myself with love, whether you accept me or reject me, and I become powerful, I become strong, I become embodied, and it doesn't make a difference what you do. So the invitation is, can we show up, can we be open if someone rejects us, and we love ourselves and stay open? Because if someone rejects us and we just put up our egoic wall again, it actually doesn't help us. It doesn't help us in any way. Egoic walls, we still feel a tremendous amount of pain, whether we have an egoic wall or not. If someone's rejecting us, and we believe in the rejection. But if we don't believe in the rejection, if we see it that it's their problem, they're hurting, we just kind of feel that tenderness in us that's hurt and love it. It passes quickly and we stay open. And then we live in an open-hearted way, a divine way, a beautiful way, a spacious way. And the world around us is just doing whatever it does. Yeah. Anything else?
No, that's good.
Okay. Thank you so much, Paige. Thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for putting up with me.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
This was kind of fun. I felt like I was on a show here or something with you. It was like...
You record a lot?
It was